Hi, this is Alex, and in this video I'm going to tell you whether you need to get your work permit before or after you arrive in Vietnam to start teaching, and how to do this so that you can get over here and get started teaching as easily as possible. Now, to begin with, yes, you do need to process your work permit when you get to Vietnam. So what this means is arriving on a 3-month tourist visa with your required documents. And during that 3-month period, you will start teaching at your job in Vietnam and processing your documents to get the work permits in that 3-month period. After which, then you have a work permit and you can move on to a business visa. Okay, so to backtrack a little bit there, essentially this is why schools will not really offer contracts from abroad, because you do need to process the visa in the country. And there's no way that they can know that that will actually go through until you're here actually doing the process itself. And that's why many schools have this 3-month probationary period, during which if the visa documents don't go through and the work permit doesn't go through, they won't actually be able to continue working with you, and you'd have to find a different job at a school that doesn't offer the work permits. So that's another point. Not all schools will offer a work permit. I have talked about this in my video on big chains of schools versus the smaller private English centers. So I'll link to that below so you can watch it for a little bit more detail. But essentially what you need to know is that only the bigger schools will actually sponsor your work permit. So probably the majority of schools, about 80%, actually won't sponsor your work permits. So if you do have the required documents, then it's nice to hit up a school that will offer your work permits. This is a little bit harder to find, and you do need to be well qualified. So the requirements for this are to be a native English speaker from the US, UK, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Ireland, and I think I've forgotten one, but you get the idea, all those countries. And then you can go ahead and apply for the work permit. You also need to have a bachelor's degree in any subject or an equivalent degree, and you need to have a TEFL certification, and that can be a TEFL or a CELTA, basically a teaching certification. So those are the required government documents. So you actually need to submit those to the Vietnamese government when you're here, as well as a medical check when you're here. So that's something that you actually have to do in Vietnam too, to process the work permit. And then you also need a criminal background check, which has been notarized. That means it's been certified as a true original, and it has to be translated into Vietnamese. So it's actually better if you do that while you're back home in the States or wherever your home country is. But the translation can be done in Vietnam if necessary, although it can be a bit of a hassle. So this is why during that first 3-month period, it's important to find a job and start processing those documents as soon as possible, so that after the 3-month period, then you can move on to a business visa once you have all those documents and process them for the work permits. So that's for those who have a bachelor's degree and are native English speakers. If you aren't in those categories, well, there's plenty of people out here who are teaching who aren't in those categories. In that case, you just don't apply for the work permit. So you don't need to bring a criminal background check. You just come, you start teaching on a 3-month visa, and then you go ahead and get another 3-month visa and another one. So, there are quite a lot of options for visa extensions at the moment. You can extend it in the country quite often. Sometimes you have to pop across to Cambodia to get a new visa. Sometimes you can even get longer business visas without a work permit. That has become possible. So that's always changing, but at the moment it is still very viable for those who don't get a work permit to stay in Vietnam and teach. So if you want to get a job that sponsors a work permit, head over to ninjateacher.com and just send over your resume. It takes 2 minutes. And I'll send you a detailed guide on exactly how to go and get the documents from your home country. And then I can set you up with some jobs, and we work with some really good schools that will sponsor work permit and offer like really great packages. So that's also a nice thing to shoot for. If you have all the required documents and you meet the qualifications. Usually those schools are looking for some kind of in-class TEFL certification or in-class teaching certificate. So just bear that in mind too. All right, so make sure to do that and subscribe for more videos about teaching English abroad. Thumbs up this video to support the channel, and I'll talk to you again in another video very soon. Peace.